All right, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to American Hammers TV. Welcome to another Wednesday night talking about West Ham. Our season is over. Um, it wasn't quite everything we thought it could be, but it was still a very good season that I personally really enjoyed. And I think hopefully we'll be able to build on it in the future. Let's get started with the things we always start with. I want to let you know that we have the American Hammers TV store, ahtv.threadless.com. So threadless is in without threads. ahtv.threadless.com. There's a banner somewhere where I can actually pop this up on the bottom of the screen. Look at that. Ah, look at that. That's so much easier that way. Okay, now you can see it. I don't have to say it 10 times. Anyway,
Yay.
yeah, this is what keeps us going. Um, we pay for this system called StreamYard that we use to put our show on, or all of our shows on. And basically, what keeps us going is you buying merchandise from this store. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's West Ham stuff. There's supporters group stuff. If you want a Toronto supporters group shirt or Chicago or wherever you are, you can get that. And then we kick some of the money back into the supporters group as well. My understanding that's still going on. Plus, there's West Ham stuff that's not American Hammers TV branded. It just says West Ham. So anyway, take a look, see what you think. Hopefully, you find something you like. It helps us a lot. Um, if you haven't liked or subscribed, I cannot imagine that you're watching this if you haven't subscribed already. But if you haven't, please do. It helps us a lot. If you have friends who are West Ham anywhere in the world, please let them know about us and have them subscribe or request that they subscribe. That helps us a lot too. And I'm going to share my thing that I always share. My friend in the Gambia, who has started a West Ham United youth club in the Gambia for a bunch of kids there. He is 16 years old. His name is Ensa. He has about 70 kids in this youth club, and he is trying to get them to a point where they can play tournaments, play competitive games. We have raised more than $1,000 for them so far, so that's really good. We bought a lot of shoes, boots, whatever you want to call them. We bought a lot of training equipment and that sort of thing. Um, I want to try to now to get them some kits or at least some shirts. They need shirts with numbers on the back to play in tournaments. So I want to get some if I can do it at a reasonable cost, get them some claret and blue shirts with numbers on the back, and then they can kind of be a real team. They're training every day now, but if we can get them set up with kits and they can actually go out and be a competitive team and be a club and start entering competitions, and I think that would be wonderful for them. He's a very hardworking kid, and so I talked to him a lot, talked to him almost every day, and I'm very proud of him. Again, he's 16. He's doing all this by himself with about 70 kids. So anything you do to help out, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. Um, I know there's a lot of bad news. I know we've had a lot of bad news in this country in the last couple of days. I know there's a lot of bad news all over. I'm really very acutely aware of that. Um, so I know there are a lot of people asking you for donations to causes, and I'm sure they're all good causes. Um, you know, this is something that uh, is close to me because I think Ensa and I have really become friends, and because he just wants to give these kids in a very difficult place an opportunity to come together, be together, and accomplish something, and work toward a goal. And I think that's great. So anyway, the GoFundMe link is in the chat, and if you are willing to donate, that'd be fantastic. It would help us a lot. I know I've put some of my money into it too, so you won't be alone. Anyway, that's most of the pre spiel, I guess. Um, so tonight we have well, Phil's disappeared. I don't know where he's gone, but he'll come back. There he is. There he is. I'm sorry. I'm still coughing a little bit from allergies. Uh, from Chicago, down at the bottom of the screen, our buddy Phil, and who's been with us many times now before. And on this side, I finally pointed in the right direction because it points the other way when you point. From Toronto, from TO, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's Eric. How are you, Eric?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Lee?
Well, I'm okay. Now, this is your first time with us, I think. Is that right?
I've been in the chat a bunch of times, but I've never been on the actual show before.
Right, right. Well, I'll tell you what. why don't we? Here comes Matt. Why don't we? Why don't you tell us quickly? First of all, let me just say hi to Matt, who's down in. Oh, he's actually in the car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mate, I'm very sorry. I had a bit of a problem with my connection, and then I got confused with the link. But now
Oh,
I'm
that
here.
was my fault with the link. That was my fault.
No,
I apologize.
but
I
I'm here.
think I think I sent you the wrong one because I was trying to send it from my phone and it was a mess.
No,
Anyway, I appreciate it. So Matt's down in South Texas. Matt is down actually on the border of Texas and Mexico. Um,
correct.
yes, way down there. But you're a proper Cockney by birth.
Exactly
Um,
correct.
yep. So always good to have you here. Now I was just saying, Eric. See, I pointed the wrong way again. See, because it's anyway. Eric is from Toronto. Why don't you tell us, give us a brief overview, Eric, of how you became a West Ham fan and sort of what brought you to us?
Sure, absolutely. So, I've been rooting for West Ham since I was 10. So, going back to 1998, the thing that drew me to them was they literally drew with one of those really good Arsenal teams, 3-3.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this is my team because I've always been a fan of underdog teams. And as you know, throughout the last 24 years of being a West Ham fan, they're mainly the underdog. They've
Yes.
very rarely been the favorites. And so I've always been a fan of just the team mostly. When I saw Green Street Hooligans in 2003, I was like, it still laughs at me.
It's
I was,
okay.
I was,
Green Street has brought a lot of people to West Ham. Okay.
Yeah,
It's okay. It's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
no judgment.
yeah. I knew for sure that they were my team. After that, I was a big Elijah Woods Lord of the Rings guy
Yeah.
back when I was 15, and I was like, that is who I have to root for. In terms of communities, I was a big fan of West Ham Fan TV during the pandemic. So
Yep.
I'm familiar with Matt's videos from talking to Nick Hawkins.
Yep.
So to see Matt here, I was like, oh my god, I got to meet this guy and say hello, and big fan that way. And then I connected with you guys as well because I think we connected via Lee Bright. I think his name is on.
Oh, Liam. Yeah, Liam
Liam.
Bright. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Liam's a good dude. He used to come on with us a lot. He's got small kids now, I think, and I haven't seen him lately, but Liam's a good guy he's a Fresno guy out in California. I think he's Fresno. He's somewhere in California. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so just being able to talk to people more about West Ham is always great because I find up here in Toronto, most of the people I talk to, I have to explain that West Ham is a football team and that there's more teams than just the big six that you normally hear about internationally. So
Yes.
I started getting into a mansplaining thing when I'm like, oh, I'm a West Ham fan, and um, admittedly with GSB, one of the appeals initially before finding out that they're hard to deal with was that they're both in the porn industry. So I always would say to people, I root
They
for West
are. Well, Sullivan
West
more than
Ham 'cause
gold, but
these
yes,
guys
that's true.
yeah. I used to say I root for West Ham because these guys are like porn. They took porn money to buy my favorite team, so I can get behind them, sort of.
Sullivan was Gold. I think David Gold's money came more from like lingerie and stuff like that.
Correct.
He has the Ann Summers franchise, which is it's like Victoria's Secret type thing. I mean, it's not it's pretty like mainstream. Sullivan, on the other hand, was an old school pornographer. Yeah, that's what he did for a long time.
I'm shocked he's not in jail because he used to do like snuff porn, if I read correctly. So.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That I did not know. I knew his ex-wife committed suicide. I did not know about snuff. Wow. I'm shocked he's not in jail for a whole lot of reasons, but I mean, hopefully he won't own the club much longer, I hope. So, not ever really been a fan. So, anyway, well, I appreciate you. And I don't know, Eric, I hate to do this to you, but I have to draw a little bit of a parallel between West Ham and the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Because it's a little bit of the lost cause.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if most people,
we killed Phil.
Most people here
That's
probably
cool,
know.
man. That's
Well,
cool.
I mean, we all have some lost cause in our sports, uh, portfolio, right? And I mean, I've been a New York Mets fan for, my whole life for reasons like I'm not even from New York.
I support Chicago sports. I get it. I do.
I know you do because you're a Chicago fan. I've been a Mets fan for my whole, and they haven't won the World Series since I was 12, and even then, it took a miracle. And I don't, there. I mean, who knows if they'll ever win it again? So everybody has a everybody has a burden, a sports burden to bear, and I'm sure most people here know. But if you don't know, the Toronto Maple Leafs are far and away, along with Montreal, the biggest and most popular team in the NHL. I mean, nobody else comes close. And they also haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1967, quite
Yep.
famously.
Yep.
So this would kind of be, it would be like saying like Liverpool or Manchester United are, constantly battling relegation. I know that's maybe not a great, but it's similar. You know what I mean? Like if you took a gigantic, right? Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Admittedly, for NFL, I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, so literally up till January.
You're not helping yourself.
No, not at all. Not at
That was a
all.
rough game.
Yeah, all this winning this year for West Ham was I loved it, but it was also a very new feeling for me, considering the other teams that I root for. That's not to bash West Ham, by the way. Just how it's been.
No. I get it. I mean, I get it. Yes, Peach is also from Toronto. I don't know. Have you ever met Peach, Eric?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, you would know.
I didn't even remember Toronto West Ham fans.
Yeah, you'd know if you'd met Peach. You wouldn't forget Peach. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we all again, Josh being I'm sorry, not Josh. Phil being who is Josh? Phil being a Chicago fan. You know what it's like. He knows what it's like. It's rough.
Just take your pick at this point. Bears, Bulls.
Well, the Bears are the saddest one because they should be better. They should always have been better. And they're
Chicago Fire.
They're like the Mets.
Picture.
They're like the Bears are like the Mets. They had a one great season in the 80s, and then sort of a lot of struggling outside of that. But anyway, so yes, in other words, so if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, you know what it's like to be a West Ham fan. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Except that Toronto, the Maple Leafs are massive in the sense they actually are massive.
Yeah.
They have like a gigantic number of fans, but they struggle. Anyway, so the season has ended, and I don't really want to go back over any of the games. The Brighton game was a total collapse in the second half. But you know what? Listen, you don't. I mean, what frustrates me is we were 45 minutes away from qualifying for Europa League again, and then I felt as though the team fell apart in the second half. I can't even blame David Moyes for this. I blame the players. I know they were tired. It's a long season and all that. You had 45 minutes, all right, 45 minutes, and we give up 3 goals, and we had a lead, at halftime. Gave up 3 goals and sort of collapsed. But as you know, as we all know, a season isn't built around one game or around 45 minutes. It's built around 38 league games, and we had some we should have won, some we should have drawn, that we didn't. I think 7th is a deserved place to finish. And I don't think it's bad at all. It gets us into a conference league qualifier when we have to win a playoff mid-August, I think, August 18th or 25th or something like. Maybe it's both. There's a playoff in August where we'll face, we don't know who yet. And if we win those two, it's a 2-leg playoff. And if we win that, we go on to the conference league proper. So let's hope we get a not Astra Gugu from Romania, who right, who knocked us out of the Europa League a couple of seasons back. Let's hope it's anybody else really except Eintracht Frankfurt would be fine. So anyway, what I wanted to do was I thought what we could do if you guys are up for it. I was thinking we could go kind of down our list of players. And you guys could tell me, do you you start, do you bench, or do you sell? Does that make sense?
Sure.
All
I
right. So
like
it's like
this.
it's like the old, it's like the old game you play with, um, screw, marry, or kill, or whatever, which seems harsh. Uh, so a little more violent than I'd like to be at this point. But anyway, start, bench, or sell. So in other words, locked in starting 11, bench player, keeping in mind we need depth, or he's out of here. Some of them will be obvious, right? Some of them will be obvious. Some of them probably less so. And then if you guys want to talk about transfer rumors, that's fine. I don't pay any attention to that stuff because it's all crap until the guy's holding the shirt. Do you know what I mean? Somebody posted on Twitter today, some wag posted on Twitter today that Bowen was off to Newcastle, which he's not. And then West Ham Central picked up on it and got duped again, not for the first time. And everybody started freaking out about going to do it. It's just not happening. It's not true.
Newcastle have bigger ambitions than Bowen.
Well,
They're a massive club now.
Bowen's
They're-
fantastic. Bowen, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see somebody come in for Bowen. I mean, he's a brilliant
Oh no,
player.
it wouldn't shock me, but not Newcastle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you think, yeah, I don't know. They have so much money now that you think that they'd go for,
They'll probably go after Dembele from
right,
Barca.
a more established international. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I blame Lucas for luck. Lucas did not have a great run over in England. I've got to say, he had a real rough
Lucas
time.
is banned from England.
Yeah. And Roma did. Roma won their first ever European trophy today. They beat Feyenoord, which I have to admit, I used to live in Rotterdam and I was kind of supporting Feyenoord a little bit. But I also had a very good friend who was a Roma supporter, a guy I used to play rugby with, was a big Roma fan, so I'm happy for him. All right. Well, we're going to get to this, Darren. We're going to get to this. Yes. All right. So I'm going to pull up, sorry to show you my Betway sponsorship here. But my setup is a little less than ideal. All right, here we go. All right, let's start with this is right from the website. Okay, straight from the website. Let's start with our keepers. Fab, is he a start, a bench, or a sell for you guys?
I let him
Bench.
go. The free agent.
You said let him go?
I'm sorry. I would, at this point in his career, as much as I'd like to keep him, I think you have to start moving forward. You can find more established keepers, or you could stick with the one of the other two keepers that we have at this point.
Right. I mean, and by the way, Wally, yes, Wally, it's true. The numbers don't lie. We have not won with Lucas in attendance, and we have not lost with Ryan Fredericks in the starting 11 all season long. So I'm sure Wally was going to point that out eventually. What do you think, Eric? What's your take on Fab at the moment? It's pretty good to start with, actually.
Fab, I think I would keep on the bench, and if we can somehow keep Areola, I would definitely do that. Randolph, I also like. David Martin, I actually forgot was on the team.
Yeah, I don't think.
So-
I mean, honestly, I'm really thinking. For the keepers, I'm really thinking of just Fab and Areola. I know we haven't signed Areola. There was a lot of talk that we will sign him. So, and I realize he's no longer a West Ham player at the moment, but I'm going to discuss him anyway because I'm going to discuss him on the sort of contingency that we signed him. I don't know whether we will or not, but I'd like to talk about him anyway. So Matt, what's your feeling on Fab? Is he still your league keeper?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No, he goes to the bench. Him and Areola change places if Areola comes, and if not, then Pope or whoever else comes in. Randolph, for me, I look at him like Fredericks, not interested, don't really pay attention to him. And Martin, I think, is just there because he's a nice guy, to be honest. I don't really think he has any much more use, to be honest. It will be interesting to see what happens with Trot and Anang after their loans, because there was a lot of talk about them. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, they've not really made any movements after their loans periods. So it'll be interesting to see whether they get included, or whether they're sent back out on loan or finally sold.
Yeah, we should do a whole show, and not necessarily tonight because I haven't really thought about it enough, but we should do a whole show on the academy prospects. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Maybe for next week since we're headed into the silly season. So many of our prospects have gotten so much hype, only to sort of, just not quite be good enough, at least yet, and maybe ever. I'm thinking Connor Coventry. Who was the guy we sold?
Cullen,
Say it again.
Josh Cullen.
Cullen. Yes, Josh Cullen. Thank you. Yes.
Mhm.
Just sort of never developed,
No.
And then he had like Reese Oxford, who's off in Germany doing well, but he never really kind of made it at West Ham.
Yeah.
There's a
Ngakia
lot
that
of
we
guys like
sold,
that.
Grady Diangana, those guys that never really made it up. We were all worried about selling them, but they've not really done anything afterwards. So maybe it actually turned out to be a good deal to get reasonable money for them both.
I thought
then
it was.
Blessing in disguise at this point. It's one of those things in the moment. Yeah, you're frustrated because I think people were more so frustrated because we sold him, and then the thought was we didn't do anything to bring anyone
Yeah.
at that moment that
Well,
we thought was
we
on his
sold
level.
Grady. We sold Grady, and we bought Ben Rama, who was a similar player, but he cost more money. And I think at the time I said this is terrible business, right? You had Grady, he'd been at West Ham since he was 9 years old, or something like that, West Ham lifer. And we sold him out kind of, I feel as though Sullivan did it kind of behind Moyes' back. However, I mean, Ben Rama, we'll get to him in a minute, but he's been a pretty good player for us, right? And Grady has not exactly established himself anywhere, from what I can tell. So,
yeah, Diangana hasn't hit the heights that we thought he would at all. Ben Rama has been. I think the thing with Ben Rama is I think people wanted Eze, who's at Crystal Palace now.
yes, they
more
wanted
so-
Easy E. Yes, Easy, whatever his
people
name is.
wanted
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy E. Yeah, that's what I always called him about it. Who was at Pal and Ben Rama may still have been a better player, I don't know, but I mean he's comparable, right? It's not as though Eze has been, markedly better. But no, I'm Trot and I've already forgotten the other keeper's name. Anyway, the ones you mentioned there, Matt. Yes, absolutely, very good point. That they sort of they haven't blossomed yet. So let me ask you this. So I feel as though all of us here are. I mean, is it safe to say that we're all in favor of Areola being the regular keeper if he signs a permanent deal?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel the same way. I think, Fab, his health has really, really. Do you think so, James? Really? James thinks Ben Rama is harshly treated. That's hard to imagine. That's hard to imagine. James, we'll have you back on soon. Okay, don't worry. I'm trying to rotate the squad a little bit, but I know you love Ben Rama. We'll have you back on to talk about him soon. Okay. So let me ask you this. So if it does come down to Areola or let's say Nick Pope, and again, we're off in fantasy world here because obviously neither one of them is signed for us on any kind of permanent basis. Do you have a preference between Areola and Pope? I personally would keep Areola because he's been in our goal. We know he can do it. But do you guys have thoughts on that?
Definitely would just keep Areola. He's been at the club. It's no real adjustment for him at this point, and he's shown what he can do. So at this point, no point in going for Areola. I mean, going for Pope. You already have someone who you've seen, and you'll probably get on a cheaper deal, I believe, than Nick Pope. You're going to have to pay the English tax when it comes to him. So at this point, stick with what you know, stick with what has been proven, and go about your business.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Eric, Areola or Pope or any of these, like Sam Johnson or any of these other guys who've been thrown around, name-wise?
I'm similar to Phil in the sense that I like Areola. I like the fact that even though he mainly played cup games and the Europa League, he got us all the way to the semifinal. Like that's something that I think has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Pope.
Absolutely, it does. I agree. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Pope for me, from what I've seen, he only has a really good game when he plays West Ham. So if he joined us, I don't know if actually.
It's the Glenn Murray principle, or who was the guy from Brighton who always not Brighton?
Maupay.
Maupay, Glenn Murray, of course,
Lukaku.
of course, Lukaku, and Wayne Rooney actually has scored more goals against West Ham than any other player.
Wow.
But there was Murray, there was Maupay, there's Lukaku, and there was the guy in wasn't there a Bournemouth player when they were up who
Callum Wilson.
Right?
yes,
Callum
Callum Wilson.
Wilson.
Callum Wilson. Yes, always. I
Matt
felt as though
Wayne,
he always scored
Forever.
against us. Yes, those are the players who play well against West Ham. So you can throw Pope in there as well as a guy who is a brick wall against West Ham, which means we think he's fantastic. When in fact, who knows? Maybe he is, maybe he's not. All right. So yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping we just, I'm really hoping we just go with Areola and we stick with Areola. I think that's the way to go. All right, let's move. Let's move to the back line. Good one to start with here. Sell, start, or bench. Our man Aaron Cresswell. Where are you guys on Aaron at the moment?
Bench.
Yep.
There's no other way to say it. Like, got love for the man, but it's time. Father Time has called for those knees. It's time to just, you keep him as he's an experienced defender. You help that he helps with the development of the younger defenders.
Yeah.
And then you use him in your cup matches and maybe a spot start if you're in a bit of bother in terms of health.
Yeah.
Which is a guaranteed because at West Ham, nothing comes easy with healthy
There'll obviously
players.
Yeah. I mean, does anybody not feel this way? I feel as though this is kind of how we all feel about Cresswell.
Yeah, 100%.
A couple of years ago, he had an awful season, if you remember.
Yeah.
The whole season was very bad. And, back then we said on this show a lot, and I said a lot, that I really like him and that I appreciate his service to the club, but I thought he was done at West Ham. And then, Moyes came in and kind of paired him up with Masuaku, and it worked for a little while with that back five, and he got better. But, I mean, I don't blame him for the loss to Frankfurt. I think when we gave up a goal in the first minute of the home leg, that's when we really lost that tie. But clearly his error in the second game was devastating. And as good as I think he is going forward and with set pieces, he's just really not a very good defender anymore. And we've talked for a long time here about how we need a new left back. And I think left back should actually be our number one priority outside of maybe striker.
Yeah,
and I see a lot of people saying, let's get a replacement for Souček in, or let's get in Calvin Phillips. Fine. But you know what? 1 and 1A to me are striker and left back, because Cresswell he's about to hit the dusty trail.
Especially with the importance of fullbacks in the modern game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not the same as it used to be, right? It's like defensemen in hockey. They don't just sit at the blue line anymore. Fullbacks have to be multifaceted. They have to be able to go forward. That he's not a winger enough to be a winger. He's not a fullback enough not a defender enough to be a fullback. Do you know what I mean?
Like they say, the best fullbacks right now are failed wingers, to be honest.
Yeah, and right, exactly. And he did. And our first sending off, I thought, was ridiculous. But I mean, there's no question that he got sent off for twice in 28 days in the same competition. It's not a good record. So I wouldn't sell him. I would definitely bench him though. Well, Frederick. If Fredericks plays, then West Ham will win because we win whenever he plays. So
I think
whether he plays for us or not, that's not really the question.
I think Wally and I are on the opposite ends of the scale of the spectrum, the Ryan Fredericks spectrum.
Our man Wally is out on a little bit of an iceberg, floating out to sea with Ryan Fredericks. I admire him for it, but he's all right, Kurt Zouma. We're starting Kurt Zouma, right? Is anybody not starting Kurt Zouma next season?
At this point, Kurt Zouma might get into a brawl and he'd start the next day. That's how it's been at this point.
I mean, he pretty literally got arrested for, I don't know if he was arrested at the time, but the video came out about him kicking his cat, and he started the very next game. Not a whole lot he could do, I don't think, at this point, not to start. I mean,
we just proved that he will start almost under any circumstances. Almost.
I highly doubt that he's going to jail, to be honest. I know he pleaded guilty to something.
He'll pay a fine.
Right.
Well,
he was obviously, what's he going to do? Plead innocent? It's on video. I mean, it's so clear, He'll pay. He wouldn't have pled guilty if he thought he was going to jail.
Let's keep him away from Moyes' daughter. That's because that one I don't think you'll get back from.
Well, I don't know why that would happen to begin with.
Well, Wilfred Zaha went there.
He did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I don't know all the gossip, I have to say. So
yeah, supposedly, I don't want to talk bad about a lady, but supposedly he's not the only one. So I mean, just to put it out there, let's hope that if you Google David Moyes' daughter, it's the question. It says people also ask who shagged Moyes' daughter.
Oh no.
It's not the kind of thing you want to be looking at as a dad.
That's terrible. Oh, that's terrible.
David Moyes is going to come through the screen and attack all of us at this rate.
And we're not going to understand a word he says. He's going to have that. He's going to have the full wherever he's from accent going, Aberdeen or wherever he's from. All right, let's tip with the center backs. This is a tough one for me, I have to admit. Do you start, bench, or sell the guy I voted for Hammer of the Year, Craig Dawson?
Bench, because I can't bet on him to have another swan song season like that, if that's the right term. You can't bet on that. You need a new center back partnership.
Yeah,
because Issa Diop clearly hasn't done enough to establish that. And so you have to start looking at different options.
I think I don't know what happened with Diop. He at one point he looked very much like the future of our central defense, and then he just didn't. And I haven't. This is a Diop shirt. This is my Diop shirt from a few seasons ago. But then he just didn't, and I don't know what happened there. It's just you don't know. Does anybody still start Craig Dawson? Is anybody still saying we need big Dawes? He had a great season. I mean, do you any argument for keeping him in the top pairing?
He starts unless someone else comes in. Because, I mean, although I like Diop alongside Zuma, I feel that the French connection could really bring out the best in Diop. But the thing about Diop, as we all know, is his attention span. He's very prone to just those lapses of concentration, doesn't check his shoulder. For a centre-back, and I coach and I play, his positioning is Sunday league in some moments. It's bad. Really, really bad. And the thing about Dawson is, like you guys are saying, he's playing at his 100%. He's playing at his best.
He'll never be any better. He can only go downhill from here.
And he can't. Yeah, exactly. And he's not. How long do we know he's going to be able to sustain it for?
Yeah, and James makes a good point. I mean, this fellow Aguerd, that's how you pronounce it, from Rennes. We seem to be thinking about being close to possibly signing him. You know how that is with West Ham. Supposedly he was in London discussing terms with the club. I don't know how true all that is, but I do think if he comes in, unless he just really struggles to settle, he's got to take Dawson's place. Eric, do you have any thoughts on Dawson? Any different thoughts or same thoughts?
So firstly, I'd like to say Dawson was robbed of making the English team.
Yeah, he honestly, he probably should be there on form.
Too many right backs. He's not. If he was a right back, I think he would get in because how many 5 right backs in the squad this time?
Right.
Exactly.
Look, at this point,
are you are you Eric? Are you a bench Dawson guy too?
Yeah. If we can upgrade, I want to see like this guy Elise come in because he's supposed to be like the future, isn't he?
I'm curious about him too. Yes. Well, that's another thing is once again with the academy guys, you have Elise, I don't know how you pronounce it. I've always said Alesi, but that could be wrong. And then there's Harrison Ashby. Is he a center back? I think he is, or is he a right back? I can't
He's a
remember.
right back.
He's a
He's
right
a
back.
right
back.
He's a right back.
And
So
how,
we
how
have.
so
we
how
have
does Ogbonna come back? How does Ogbonna come back?
well, that
That's
actually,
not-
and that's actually, Lenny brings this up. That's to me the ideal pairing is Ogbonna and Zuma. The question is this, right? The question is what James is asking. Is he ever the
I
same?
don't, thi-
Yeah.
I don't think at his age you can expect him to come back anywhere near where he was. And it was pretty good, but that was too brutal of an injury at this point in his career.
Well, the
If you
first.
get him anywhere near 75% of who the player he was, that'd be great. But I don't feel confident in that.
Yeah.
The
I'm
first
very
player I
thankful
think
for
of
what
is
he's doing.
Winston Reed. It makes me think of Winston Reed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
same,
I respect Ogbonna. I didn't think after the knee injury, that he had when he was, what was it, the 2016, 2017 season, I think it was, when he was basically out for God knows how long. I really didn't think he was going to come back. And last year he picked up that ankle injury, didn't he, where he was out for about, 10 games?
Yeah.
That ankle injury.
yeah.
Again, I doubted that he would come back up to top level after that ankle injury. And he's proven us wrong again in the same way that Dawson has proved us wrong. So, I mean, if as a betting man, I don't think Oggy will come back as we would like him to. But like the situation with Dawson, you can't rule it out.
Ogbonna for me is, and he's 34. Yeah, he is 34. Somebody Steve was right about that. In fact, he just turned 34. His birthday was 2 days ago. So yeah, he's not a young guy. I know center backs can play a little longer than players further up the pitch, but he's still not a young guy. I'll tell you what though, there are some really sort of incredible numbers that Jack Elderton posted today about Ogbonna and the drop off we had after he got injured. I think people forget, and I'm guilty of this too. We talk about the small squad, we talk about all these other factors and why we struggled after January, and those are all factors. Don't get me wrong, small squad, lack of investment, all that. I agree, but man, missing Ogbonna was a big deal. I mean, a big deal. Here's some of the things that Jack put together. Points per game, 2 points without him, 1.22. And I know that there's more to this than just Ogbonna. You know what I mean? He's not the only factor in all these numbers. Even so, you have some correlation here that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Expected goals, 1.16 expected goals without, 1.52, and I think that's conceded. Expected goals conceded, as you can see, not scored. So, I mean, a big jump in goals conceded after he went out, and there's a lot more to this. You guys want to look up Jack Elderton and follow him? You should. He's really good. The post Ogbonna drop-offs, almost half a goal fewer. Fewer shots. Pass accuracy was worse. Possession was lower. All this stuff. It's kind of incredible. And again, there's a lot of other factors that play in, but it was massive missing him. And the question to me is, as we've been discussing, can he ever come back and be that player for us again? And I just don't know that he can.
No.
I think to me he's a bench player. I don't think we sell him. I don't think you get anything for him anyway. 34 years old.
I thought he was. Maybe I was wrong. I thought his contract was up at the end of the season. Maybe I was wrong about that.
Is it? That I didn't realize.
I
Let
think
me check and make sure. I thought it was, but I may be wrong. I'll hold my hand up if I'm wrong.
Well, I could be wrong too because I never know about that stuff. Eric, do you remember?
Yeah. Sorry. I think what happened was his contract was going to be out, but then when he suffered the injury, they extended him for one more year.
Yeah.
Him
I
and
believe
Ben.
you're right about that.
Him and
Yep.
Ben Johnson right around the same time got extensions, and
Yes.
so they're keeping him for one more year. But I think he'll be on the bench probably, just based on the injury. So,
I mean, if I thought he could come back and be the player he was before he was injured, I'd say start Ogbonna.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no way to evaluate that until he's able to play again. but I have a fear of a Winston Reed effect here, you know, where he's never gets. Well, Manuel Lanzini to some extent a little bit the same way. I mean, he's had good stretches, but you know, Lanzini to me has never quite come back to being the impact player he was before that terrible injury. He's recovered to have a nice career, but he hasn't been maybe what
Not
you
enough,
thought he
not
was
enough
gonna be.
goals.
Not enough goals, exactly. Well, and he's hit or miss, right? He's inconsistent, and I don't know if that's because of a physical problem or if it's a mental problem. You know, you go into the tackle, you think about where you've been in the past, you don't go in with the same aggression. I think you see this with athletes all the time, and you know, I think that's where we are with Lanzini, and I fear the same thing.
I think with Ogbonna, what we have is leadership and defensive organization. So I think if we could find somebody who was fairly young, mobile, fast. Look, reading my fast, agile, mobile, but with that defensive organization skill and that leadership skill to complement Zuma, I think we will be in a brilliant situation there.
Yeah.
Want to take a risk and bring back Reese Oxford?
I mean, what's he like?
Hold on, he didn't have a bad season.
He had a good season.
Without doubt, yeah.
No, Reese Oxford, and what is he? 22? I mean, he's still young, isn't he?
Like, think about that. He's only 23.
He's a kid. He could still be Young Player of the Year potentially. I mean, the point being, I think he seems like a 30-year-old guy because he was playing for us when he was like 16. You know,
I think for him it was a maturity thing. He had everything being handed to him so quickly, and it's kind of like sometimes you need a great humbling to get your ish together, and that was his humbling, being sent out to Germany.
I mean, he's made 58 appearances for him in the last since 2019, and I think. I think he had a pretty good season. I don't know. He's just signed. Well, he signed. Actually, should be coming to the end of his deal fairly soon. It's hard to imagine us bringing him back. We're not going to bring him back. We're not going to do that. I mean, come on, we wouldn't do that, would we? He wouldn't come back. He wouldn't come back. You know, kind of a shame we lost him though in a way, because if he could have, you know, like Ravel Morrison, if he could have gotten himself together while he was with us, could have become a real cornerstone of the team. But yeah, so I just fear we're not going to see Ogbonna come back to what he was before. All right, let's move over to one of the tougher ones for me to discuss, which is Soufal, a guy I really loved last season, and I haven't totally sort of fallen off of his bandwagon, but you got Soufal, you got Ben Johnson there sort of vying for that right back position, assuming we hopefully upgrade at left back. We don't know. Is Soufal a guaranteed nailed on starting 11 guy for you, or is he a bench guy with Johnson? Or I can't really see any reason to sell him at this point with our lack of depth, and we wouldn't get anything for him anyway. But where does he fall into the picture for you? Anybody?
I'll go for it. I still think Soufal starts just. I mean, I would love to see Ben Johnson come through. As a homegrown guy, it's the ideal situation. I think Ben Johnson has a lot to offer for us as another option. I think Ben Johnson, he's in one of those difficult positions where he could end up like a Jonathan Spector, where he ends up getting played all across the back line, whether it's left back, centre back, right back. I don't really think that's what he wants, because I don't think it will. Being a utility player in the back line is never good for your career. It's best to cement yourself in a specific position. I think he's got the potential this season to take the position from Soufal, but I still think on the first game of the season, Soufal starts for me. But Ben Johnson is just one step behind him.
Yeah, he just needs to be better going forward, right? He just needs to be, he just lacks a little bit of. Yeah. But defensively, he's excellent. And,
he is. Yeah.
And he just needs that, Gary's a big Soufal guy. Eric, what do you think?
I think Soufal starts mainly because he provide when he's healthy and he seems into the games. He's the offensive catalyst on that back line to me. Like he really gets it
Mhm.
going. I know people
Mhm.
criticize Cresswell, but Cresswell had a good offensive season, I would say. But
He
Sufal,
did.
I think, is if he's motivated, because this year it looked like when the contract negotiations stalled with Sullivan and Gold, you could tell that he tailed off a little bit because he was more focused on that than he was on the actual
Yeah.
games. And
But he had the injury too. He had an injury
Yeah.
that apparently was,
Yeah, he
he had
did.
surgery. I mean, he had a break, so that was
yeah,
tough for him to come back. Yeah.
yeah, when he came back, he seemed motivated at times, but other times you could tell like his head wasn't in it this year. Last year it seemed like he had
Yeah.
to improve, but this year I think he got a little too complacent. Same with Suchek, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Phil, what are your thoughts on old Vlad?
He's a starter until proven otherwise. That's gonna be how it is. I agree with Matt and Eric. I mean, I think that he's gotta be the starter and given a chance to show that he is the lockdown starter for next season. But it's Ben Johnson's job for the next 5 years after that
Yeah.
if he takes
Yeah.
it. Like that's how it has to be. Like this could be that transitional season where you see Sufal hand the baton to Ben
Yeah.
Johnson. And if Ben Johnson takes this the right way and grows and continues to improve and expand his game, I think it's a win-win. You know,
Yeah.
it's clear we don't really need to do anything on the right fullback side. It's just a matter of making sure you're getting the best out of everyone there.
So Fall will be 30 in August, and that's not old, but it's not young. He's not a kid. So he'll be 30 when he's for the whole season, basically. Of course, Johnson's 22, quite a bit younger. It's very clear that Johnson is our future at this position. A lot of people don't like him, though. Steve doesn't like him. Epic Hashtag doesn't like him. Gary's more of a Sufal guy. Um, I did not even know he was Ledley King's cousin. If you wanted the truth, I had no
Yeah,
idea. I did not know that. I was not aware. I mean,
I think
I'm a lot. Let me put it this way. I feel a lot better about right back than I do about left back. Right? I mean,
I mean
between Sufal and
that's true.
Johnson, I think Johnson. The other advantage is he could play left back competently. He
Mhm.
can do that if he needs to do it.
Yeah.
I feel
Can I-
better about that than I do about poor Cresswell. Coming out for another season.
Can I just say something that I agree with Ben Johnson's our future, but if we get into a top 4 position, we really need to adapt our fullbacks and the fullbacks that we're looking for that level of competition, which would be Champions League. And I really do think that if we were to get and push up into the top 4, I really do think that Ben Johnson wouldn't be the future, because I think we would need to then take it up to another level. And I don't want to make a judgment because I've not seen him in training or anything, and I don't know the guy, but I do think that he might struggle to make that next move up. Because if you look, at top 4, I mean, you can look at Liverpool, you can look at Chelsea, you can look at even Man United, even with the good and bad fullbacks that they have, we're kind of like 2 notches below that when it comes to fullbacks. We can bring up a notch in this transfer window, but we'd still need to make another step up if we wanted to get that top 4.
I agree with that. I actually think. I mean, listen, we'd all love to make top 4. We all would have loved to have won Europa League and made Champions League. I think Champions League. I think for us right now is a bridge way too far.
Yeah.
I think the step up between Europa League and Champions League is. It's almost comparable. It's not to me. It's a bigger step almost than the Championship to Premiership. It's a huge leap. I think we would need a total overhaul of our team if we ever made Champions League, if we wanted to compete in Champions League. And Ben Johnson could be our left back. He could be the left back for a large chunk of next season. I mean, that,
He's got to show he can play with both feet, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Inconsistent.
That's not
Gary's
his
right
game.
about this too. He's just offensively, he's still a liability.
He's kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember Tim Breaker.
I remember vaguely, yes.
Yeah, he reminds me of Tim Breaker, a solid old school right back, defends well, but kind of gets vertigo if he goes past the halfway line.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem because, again, those players now, they have to adapt. They have to be able to, to join the attack. They have to be able to cross. They have to do all the things that Gary and James and you all are talking about.
I wish.
Sorry to jump in. Do we think that Harrison Ashby can break through? Because he looked fast in like those couple games that he played.
Every time I've seen him, and I don't watch a lot of the reserves, but every time I've seen him, he has looked brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, really good. He looked great against Dinamo Zagreb. He's looked great in the few times he's come in with the first team, in the last dying minutes here and there. I would love for Ashby to make an impact. But Moyes just doesn't like to play the kids. It's just not his way. He doesn't do it. He's not going to do it. Which, long term for us could actually be a problem. I'm a huge fan of David Moyes and a big supporter. But we have to capitalize on being the Academy of Football at some point, and we can't just
That
go.
leads to an interesting question. Do we think long-term David Moyes, do you see David Moyes staying as a manager 3 years from now? Do you think he can still be our manager 3 years from now? Or do you think that depending on, say we continue to qualify for European competition?
Yes, then yes, I think so. He's 59 years old, all right? So he's not, for a manager, that's not ancient, but when these guys start getting up into their 60s, I feel as though they often lose their fastballs a little bit. You know what I mean? To use a baseball reference. 3 years, I think is possible, Phil. 10 years, no.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
No.
So he's not our Alex Ferguson. He's not. He's not our Arsene Wenger. He's not. However, he's not a John Lyle or a Ron Greenwood for that matter. But I do think that if we establish ourselves as, top 6 to top 8 contenders every season, if we qualify for Europe on a regular basis, I absolutely think he'll stay and he should stay. But there's got to be somebody who, there's got to be somebody in the wings.
Yeah.
It's, Stuart Pearce has gone from the coaching staff. I think that's a huge loss. I can't imagine he won't turn up as a manager somewhere. I'm sure he will turn up as a manager somewhere. People talk about Mark Noble. We don't know anything about him as a coach. People talk about Scott Parker. I love Scott Parker, as you know. I'm a gigantic fan of Scott Parker. He's done well to get a couple of clubs up into the Premiership from the Championship. He hasn't really succeeded in establishing a club yet. So I think it's early to talk about him at West Ham. I just don't know who else would be out there. I think Moyes is the best option we have, especially while these guys are still in charge. Yes, I think that's what James is absolutely right. I think as long as GSB are in charge, we keep Moyes because he obviously works within all the many constraints that they set up for him, right?
Yeah.
Now, a new manager comes in, a new owner comes in, whoever that may be, particularly if it's a super ultra billionaire, which we can all, hope for. That's probably the end of David Moyes, right? They're going to bring in their own guy,
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Tim always gives me a hard time about that.
Elon Musk has just come down here to Texas. He's bought SpaceX down here to
Yes.
Brownsville, Texas. So
Yes.
I might see if I can find him at one point and give him one of my West Ham shirts. With
You got to get on. Listen, you got to get Elon or Mark Cuban would be great. I would take Mark Cuban. He's a sports owner already, right? Mavericks owner. He's had some success with. No, you're not a Mark Cuban fan.
No, I said give me Mark Cuban over Elon.
Oh
Musk.
yeah, no, I would take Mark Cuban over. I would take Mark Cuban over almost any other owner in sports. Honestly, I think he's a fantastic owner. So yeah, there's some some people out there that are not going to buy West Ham though. I could say, well, we'll see about that. Mark Noble, can I just say, and I've said this before, and we all love him for his service. We all love him for being Mr. West Ham. He's literally, from Canning Town. He's everything you'd ever want a player to be. He's a wonderful player. He was not my favorite West Ham captain because I thought sometimes he let his shoulders slump a little bit along with the other players, and I didn't think he always was the leader he could have been on the pitch. And I actually think I see more leadership from Declan Rice than I did from Mark Noble. All right, I'm just going to say it. That's all there is to it.
Can I just add in there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was James who put up the comment. I don't know if, James, you saw the interview by Moyes. Moyes actually, when he was asked, Moyes said that he thought that Noble was looking more for a sporting or technical director role rather than getting involved in the footballing side, because Noble, normally when the players are coming to the end of their careers in the last 2 years, they've already started the coaching badges. They take advantage of it. And Noble's not done that. And that's what Moyes was saying, that he thinks Noble's looking something more along the administrative side rather than the practical day-to-day footballing side.
That makes sense to me. I have to tell you, I mean, for instance, I loved Scott Parker when he was our captain because I love Scott Parker, but also, those were some really lousy teams that I felt as though he kept up. Well, he didn't keep the last one up because we got relegated in his last season, but he kept a couple of those teams up. I thought, almost single-handedly, just the way he played, the way he led those teams that really were kind of awful. Noble to me was just somebody who, was always a very good player, a wonderful human being, a great representative for the club. I never saw much in him that said manager material personally. Yeah. And so I think Matt, that's exactly what you're getting at. He has a place at West Ham forever if he wants it, and he should. He deserves it. I'm not sure that place is manager. That's all.
And look what Maldini, and don't forget, not everyone wants to become a manager because you can ruin your reputation as a manager. And look at Paolo Maldini. Look at Maldini, for example. Never looked to go into management, but quite comfortable to take along a new role as technical director at AC Milan. So I think it's a less risky place to be at, and to protect your relationship. Because imagine if Noble went in as a manager and failed. I mean, he has everything to lose.
He has everything. Well, look at Diego Maradona, Matt. I mean, who, my vote for the greatest player of all time. I'm a huge fan of Maradona as a player. I'm sorry if you're English. I know that's sensitive, but I love Maradona, right? But terrible manager, terrible. I mean, maybe it was Michel Platini, same way. Platini was a total bust as a manager. Brilliant player, extremely corrupt UEFA official.
Lampard's not.
Lampard hasn't lit anything up. Steven Gerrard got the title at Rangers, but they only have one club to compete against. And, this season they were kind of mediocre. Villa, I mean, nothing special. So, you look at like Wayne Gretzky, I don't think had great success as a coach, Eric, if you remember. A lot of the great players, Mike Singletary, if you look at American football, some of the real legends, they just didn't. Well, you know what I'm talking, right, Phil? Brilliant player, right? Not a great coach.
It just doesn't correlate all the time.
No,
I think it's hard when a player, Gianfranco Zola, Jack Collison told a story about Zola at West Ham when Jack was, in the squad at the time when Zola took over. Hey, he wasn't that old, and he told a story about how Zola just completely embarrassed the squad in training with some incredible goal. I don't know what he did. He did something on the training pitch that nobody in the current squad could actually do, And Collison said it kind of upset everybody. We can't do that. How are we supposed to do that? But see, Zola thought everybody could play that way because he played that way. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you get these guys, they're like a Maradona, a Singletary, or a Gretzky. They're brilliant players. They're the greatest players to ever come through and play the game. They think everybody can do that. And if they can't do that, there's something wrong with them, Well, that's not how it works. Those guys were just exceptional. So I think sometimes the great players don't always make great coaches. And Noble was not a great player, but I don't know that he has a coach's sort of mentality. But next man. I mean, who knows? Who knows? about the next. Who knows? All right, so
Thomas
that's
Franco-
do what? I didn't hear you.
No, I was looking at the comment. Thomas Franco Potter.
Well, you can't argue with the job that Potter's done, right? I mean, he's done really well. People talking about Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe had a big old pot of money to spend, blood money to spend in January, and he, got Newcastle out of jail. Not saying he's not a good manager, but, less impressed. Potter, on the other hand, hadn't as much to work with, and he's done really well. All right, so back to our players. I think we've pretty much covered Ogbonna and Johnson. I don't know if we're going to get much past the defense tonight, but that's okay. What do you guys do with Issa Diop? Do you bench him? Do you sell him? I don't think anybody starts him. I could be wrong. If you do, let me know. But is he a depth player, or is he a sayonara player?
Depends on what happens with your other center backs. That's literally what you do it based off of.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Phil.
No, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, after years, I mean, I've been suffering as a West Ham fan ever since I can remember. Since, and apart from random GSB crazy additions like buying 4 crap strikers at once, we've always squad depth is essential for us, especially over the last few years. So especially if we're going to be fighting another competition, if we want to do well in both cups, national cups, I think that squad depth needs to be there. And showing, like the freak situation that happened with the centre backs this year, I mean, it would be highly unlikely, talking about probability, if it happened again. But it's West Ham. You can't.
But then you have to count on it happening.
You can't rule it out. So to be honest, there are very few players I would sell right now.
I feel the same way because we talk about depth. You cannot sell players and have depth. It doesn't work that way.
The GSB are not going to buy the 7 or 8 or 9 players that we need.
No, they're going to buy like 3. They're going to buy like 3.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Look,
that's all you're going to get. Yeah,
we're going to get Castellanos from NYCFC, and then we're going to say we had a great transfer window, and then we're just going to sit there.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I will tell you, I'm sorry because I know Phil, you're a fan, and Eric, I don't know about you. I'm not an MLS guy. I don't like buying MLS players. Not many of them made an impact in the Premier League, to be honest. Not really. I mean, the Americans who have made it there. Dempsey and Donovan for a short time. There've been Brian McBride. There've been a few others, but
the thing about
not many MLS players have made an impact in the Premier League. That's all I'm saying.
No, I hear you, but
Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah, but he was in the Premier League first.
I know.
Anyway, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
But Castellanos, it's a weird one because he's probably the best striker in not only in MLS but all of CONCACAF.
Yeah.
So if you want to take a risk, that would be the guy you take that risk on. If you're gonna go into the MLS market, he would be ideal. He's 23. He's still got plenty of time ahead of him. Where's he from?
Argentina.
Argentina. Well, at least got a pedigree there. I mean, that's something.
He just really kicked off once he got to MLS. Having a great season right now as we speak.
Yeah. The only thing is that he's not been called up for the national team yet. So, I mean, maybe if he got into Europe, he could do it. It could be his board to push off because, I mean, I don't think many Argentinian coaches would bring in players from MLS for the national team. But, I mean, I do watch MLS. I do like him. I do think he's good. I think he could do with he's kind of bulky. He must be like 5'10". He looks about my height, to be honest. I don't know how.
He is 5'10". He is 5'10".
He looks about my height.
Yeah.
But I think he's got that Argentinian fighting spirit that could be useful for the Premier League. He's a tough guy. But it comes down to price. And the worst thing that he's at New York City FC, and they're not going to let go anyone for cheap. Because it's
16 million. That's their evaluation.
That's it.
And it's a Manchester
16 million
City affiliated club, right? Don't they have the same ownership?
They are.
They're the same ownership group.
Yeah. So we're gonna pay through the nose for him.
Phil, if
And
it's
yes,
60 million,
Almiron, Manuel Almiron or Miguel Almiron?
What-
What's his first name?
Miguel Almiron.
Miguel Almiron. Yeah, he's been a good player, and he did come from MLS. He was the biggest MLS transfer ever, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of money. This is what I'm saying. It's such a low level. I'm sorry, but it is, and maybe, and he's 23 years old, Castellanos. So he's relatively young. Obviously, he's done well in MLS. It's just a big adjustment to make. I don't want him to be the only striker we sign. Can I put it that way?
Yeah.
Right,
agree.
right. He doesn't have to be the only one, but
I'm afraid he will be.
right, I get that fear. I get
You know
that
what I
fear.
mean?
I
Like,
understand that.
but
They haven't signed. We haven't signed a striker since Allaire, and that didn't work out very well. And then
Well,
it's
we
gonna sign
didn't
this
work
guy,
out
be like,
for him.
huh?
I said we didn't work out for him.
It just wasn't a good fit. Yeah, I mean, Allaire was just he's done extremely well elsewhere, and that's fine. He wasn't a good fit.
to be honest, I don't think I'm going to go devil's advocate here. I don't think Almiron's been brilliant, to be honest.
Oh
I
no,
think-
he has.
I think he's been in a poor team for a while, which hasn't helped. But if you look at his goals to game ratio in his position, I guess he would be kind of like a copy, a Latin American also copy of Lanzini, to be honest, in when it comes to his goals and assists contribution, because
Yeah,
he must be averaging like 1 in 10, 1 in 11 goals.
9 goals and 110 appearances is what Wikipedia says. Now they're not always right, but that's probably a pretty good representation of 9 goals in 110 appearances. Yeah,
So it's
Not
another
great.
Lanzini. It's a
I think
Lanzini.
he's
Yeah.
just for them. He's the hard worker. He's the guy
Yeah.
who will do the dirty work, and that's what he brings to the team. He's not the goal talisman they want or the goal creator that they want, but he does everything else that you want from a player, and that's what keeps him in the squad. So he hasn't been the player that they probably wanted him to be, but he's become a player that has become very useful for them.
He's fast as well. That's the one thing I would like him for. He's quick.
Yeah.
He's really, really quick.
Yeah, I mean, but that's so I guess the point being, Almiron is kind of the biggest and best player to ever come from MLS and go to the Premier League. In terms of,
Okay,
in terms
yeah.
of the value of
Premier
the
League.
transfer,
Right.
Premier League. In terms of the value of the transfer and everything else, he's kind of the gold standard, and he's okay. You know what I mean? We need somebody who's better than okay. and yeah. Well, I'm afraid if this is how you feel at Pikash time, you're probably supporting the wrong club because
Yeah.
We're gonna get hard workers.
we don't
every
produce
time.
a lot of genuine quality. We get a lot of hard workers.
Payet
Yeah,
was
get a lot of hard workers.
random success.
Yeah. Genuine quality is more like a lucky when we get a Declan Rice come through. All right. So did we settle on Issa? Are we selling him or benching him? Or...
Bench. Yeah.
See, I don't.
Bench.
James made the argument, and I think it's a good argument that you really, if you have a player whose value is dropping, you need to sell him before it drops too far. The only problem is, again, the depth issue.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have depth. I know we have a lot of center backs at the club. I get that, but you know what? At one point this season, we didn't have any. At one point this season, with our injuries and suspensions, we were talking about: do we bring Alesi in? Do we put Declan Rice back there? We didn't have any. We're talking about moving Cresswell into the middle. So I actually wouldn't sell him. I don't think he's worth all that much anyway. And I'd keep him for depth.
I remember the times where people argued Manchester United were going to try to sign him.
Liverpool.
60 million pounds.
5 million.
60 million pounds was the rumor 2-3 seasons ago. And I'll tell you what, I sat here on these very airwaves and I said, don't sell him because he's a young player and he looked good. I said, don't sell him, keep him. And man, if I could go back in time and take 60 million pounds for Issa Diop, what can you say?
We wouldn't have spent it, but
no, we wouldn't have. That's the thing is, it wouldn't have gone and it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have gone anywhere, but we'd at least gotten paid, and it would have been, it would have been better. Yeah. No, listen. There have been some MLS guys who've done very well in Europe. There just haven't been very many who've done very well, particularly in the Premier League.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Davies would be the dream. They got him at left back.
yes. Yeah, he's a really good player. The Canadian guy. There's Jonathan David, of course, who's a striker in France now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Was he even an MLS guy? I don't remember. I just know he's Canadian. But
No, there was another player that was successful in Turkey. Another Canadian player. The other
yeah,
striker.
Kyle Lauren. Kyle Lauren.
Kyle Larin.
Kyle Lauren. Yeah, with a C. Kyle with a C. So his name's like the call letters of Canadian radio station. It's CYLE.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a good season for Besiktas.
Yes.
So,
Yes. No,
he struggled, but then he got there.
MLS is produced. I mean, but it's Premier League is as we know, different standard. It's fast. It's physical. It's a lot of guys don't adapt to the Premier League coming from other leagues, right? They just don't.
Especially Latin America and the Americas, and great players, going back to Robinho, Juan Sebastian Veron.
Veron's the one I always think about, Matt. Juan Sebastian Veron went to Chelsea and then Manchester United, or maybe I got that reversed. Anyway, when he played for both, he was kind of a non-factor. He went back to South America and was South American Player of the Year the next season.
Wonderful player. Such a range of
fantastic player. Went back to Boca, wherever it was he went. He played at River Plate, somebody like that, and was South American Player of the Year. So, sometimes it's just England just doesn't work. Yeah.
We'll see Brendan Harrison, who's going to be going to Leeds. So we'll see what happens with him.
We'll see what happens with him. And, of course, Leeds have an American manager, and they stayed up. Jesse Marsh kept him up. A little bit lucky, but, give him credit. He did.
Sometimes better be lucky than be good.
He did what he was hired to do. That's all there is to it. And, so I'll give him credit for that. All right. So two more. Do what?
If we can pay 35.
Oh, yes.
33.5.
Well, all right. Let's we'll get to old Nicola here in a minute. Fredericks and Masuaku. Does anybody hang on to them?
Oh, no.
I don't. I sell them both. I just tell them to go. I don't even sell them.
In the words of
them to the airport. That's what we do.
In the words of that famous song, US, I don't know, like a gospel guy. Hell no to the no, hell to the no.
What about Eric? Eric, what about you? Any love for our guys, Frederick? Wally doesn't think Wally's on anymore. Any love for Fredericks or Arthur?
I used to really like Masuaku. Like I used to call him King Arthur or whatever. But when he spit on that guy at Wigan a couple years ago and got banned for like 5 games, I was like, yeah, this guy can never play for us again. So
it was pretty bad. Yeah.
He was never same after that.
Fredericks to me is just not Premier League standard. That's all there is to it. I don't dislike him. I just don't think that there's anything about him that makes me think that we need to have him in the squad in any way.
I just wish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go
ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just wish that Fredericks' pace was what everybody on the team had, because that's what that keeps him in the Prem. Is the guy can flat out fly. If he could actually dribble and shoot more, then he'd be an amazing right back, and we'd be remiss selling him. But yeah, if we had his pace all throughout the squad, we'd beat that top. I don't know, top 4, maybe top 6. But
unfortunately, that's all he has. Pace.
Yeah. We need more pace on the team. So
I agree.
We need more guys with his speed, basically.
I honestly think I think part of the reason that he's there, and I know it might sound cruel, is that he's Declan Rice's best mate.
Yeah.
And Rice admits that. I think that might have even just a slight effect.
And you know what? I got it. If he's Declan Rice's best friend and that keeps Declan around, then keep on playing.
Yeah,
Rice. Just keep him in the team. You know what I mean? He doesn't cost that much. We're not going to sell him for much. If that's the case, keep him around.
Yeah.
Look, at this point, you could argue in Conference League that's going to be his bread and butter to get his stock up.
I mean, listen, he's not a totally incompetent player. He just doesn't offer
No.
much.
No,
But
he's
if
not
he's next,
incompetent.
if he's just
He's not your
average.
starter.
No,
He's a Norwich or a Fulham. He's not good enough for the Premier League, but too good for the
that's
Championship.
exactly what he is. In
Yeah.
baseball, you call him a 4A player.
Yeah.
Triple
Yeah.
A, highest minor league, and then you have the major leagues. And a 4A player is not quite good enough for the majors, a little too good for the minors. But you know what I mean. He falls in
Yeah.
that. He falls in that sort of no man's land. I agree with you on Fredericks. Yeah,
What do we
he
call
probably-
Brawl though?
He'd probably be
What?
solid in maybe one of the outside the top 5 European leagues.
Fredericks can come play in MLS.
Yeah.
Fredericks can play in
he
MLS
could
like right
definitely
now.
play in MLS.
Like he'd be a good MLS player. I'd
Hey,
take him at New
look,
England.
bring him to Chicago. I'll pick him up from the airport.
By the way, something I've been thinking. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because I think we're all done with Arthur, right? Nobody's keeping Arthur. I want to thank
No.
Arthur for his wonderful accidental goal against Chelsea. And I still have a son who plays. Sorry to use this word, soccer, because we're talking about the U.S. I'll call it soccer. My 8-year-old still plays. My 11-year-old has quit to focus on karate and other things, which is fine. But New England Revolution, are having in June. They're having a Chelmsford soccer night, Chelmsford Youth Soccer Nights. I live in Chelmsford, all right, Chelmsford, Mass, suburb of Boston, 50 miles away from the stadium where they play. By the way, 50 miles from Foxborough, not a short drive, So they've offered free tickets to all the kids who are registered to play youth soccer in Chelmsford, which is wonderful, right? And now it is after school is out. It's June 19th, and school will be out by then. But the game is in Foxborough, 50 miles away, and it starts at 8 o'clock at night. Now, I don't know. Maybe you guys don't have kids, but
Yeah.
starting something at 8 o'clock at night for an 8-year-old, that doesn't work very well. That's just not a good idea.
No.
It's a Sunday night. I mean, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
That has to be a
You know what I
nationally
mean?
televised game.
Yeah,
8 o'clock.
especially Sunday.
It's Sunday at 8 o'clock at night. And I know
What
they're
are they playing?
but even so, I don't know. I know they don't have school the
Okay.
next day, but 8 p.m. I think it's Minnesota, Phil. 8 p.m. And I'm like, so you
Here.
drive, you schlep an hour to Foxborough, all right? And granted, there's never anybody at the stadium, so it's not hard to get in. So you stay for 2 hours for the game, and you leave around 10 o'clock. You're getting home, I don't know, like 11:30 with an 8-year-old. That doesn't work. That's not good. That's not good for kids. I'm like, guys, you should have thought that through. You should have had like a 3 o'clock. You know what I mean? 3 o'clock on a Sunday, beautiful day in June. Don't do an 8 o'clock game. That's stupid. Anyway, that's my
No.
little. All the kids they're inviting are between like first and 5th grade. It's ridiculous to me. But anyway, that's my little rant about. Hey, there's Wally. He's still here. That's my little rant about the Revs, who otherwise they're not a bad organization, apart from being part of MLS, which is not their fault. All right, you guys. Well, if MLS had promotion relegation, I would go to the games.
Look, I'm gonna say
That's it.
it's all good. No, I don't. I think people, when I have a problem with pro rel in American soccer, because people don't truly understand pro rel. Like people just look
But
at
they
it for
do
the
now, though,
excitement.
Phil. There's enough Americans who watch Premier League that they do understand it. They do.
But people don't understand the business side of it.
Oh,
from the
that's
lower
true.
division.
That's true.
Like, it's all fun and games when we're talking about excitement, last day, all the drama. But when you look at the financial ramifications of relegation, it's very hard.
It doesn't work with the MLS model. It doesn't work with the MLS model because you have these billionaires who bought into these franchises. They're not clubs, they're franchises.
The
And
franchises, yeah.
they won't, you can't tell Bob Kraft that you're going to play Richmond Kickers in front of 5,000 fans next season if your team's not good enough. He's not going to accept that. Plus, MLS controls all the franchises, right? Transfers are not between an MLS club and a Premier League club, for instance. They're between MLS and the Premier League. MLS does all the work itself, right? MLS controls everybody in that league. There's a
The
centralized.
only, I'm sorry. The
No, I was
only,
gonna, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, man. I
No,
keep
no.
interrupting.
Go.
No, the only thing I'd say is that you're right in the fact that MLS has had a lot of control, but as time has gone on with the recent CBA, they've kind of been forced to relinquish a bit of that control. So now clubs are more so in control of those transfer agreements than before. And it used to be that MLS took a huge chunk of the transfer fee, and split it amongst the clubs.
Right.
But now clubs are like taking, I think, all but had like 95% of the fee they get back.
Oh, is that right? See, I didn't know that. The last I really followed MLS closely was probably about 10 years ago, and I knew how it worked back then. So I'm sure some things have changed. You know what? If they would drop, I don't like playoffs, and I don't like the lack of promotion relegation.
Okay, that I agree with. Playoffs, I can do.
I'm not a fan of playoffs. I'll just say this. I don't mind the draft idea at all. I know it's not workable in European football, but it doesn't bother me at all. I sort of love the idea of, the American idea of if you're the worst, you get to try to be you get to try to improve yourself the most quickly the next season. There's things about MLS I wouldn't mind. I'd love for there to be a real, genuine salary cap in European football. Can you even imagine? It'd be amazing. I mean, can you imagine if Newcastle and Chelsea and Manchester City, if FIFA or UEFA or I don't know who it would be, some governing body just said, okay, you get to spend £100 million on transfers this window, and that's it. That's all you get. And there's real accounting for it. You know what I mean? And real accounting for wages. It would change everything. It's changed the NHL completely, right? It made the NHL. It used to be a dynasty league, right? Montreal and Edmonton and Detroit for a little while. Every year after year after year, same teams won. And then you went for like a 20-year period where nobody repeated until Pittsburgh did it a couple of years ago. It changed the NHL. So I mean, you could do that. It would be magnificent.
E20. I know football isn't based on money. I'm just saying my fear is if people try to jump into pro rel in America, they don't understand how fragile clubs are. Like, I don't think people understand how fragile the lower divisions are in American soccer. So that's why I try to warn people of, you have to understand, this isn't just about the
Although
top.
USL is thinking about doing, USL's been talking for years about doing pro rel. And this, I'm not sure this is even true anymore, Mark. I have to say, if you look at participation, it's been huge for decades. I mean, I played 40 years ago when kids were playing in massive numbers, and they still play in massive numbers. I coach the kids now; they play in massive numbers. TV wise, MLS does it very poorly in this country, very poorly. The ratings, it's really incredible. There are guys on Twitter. Helltown Beer, is that his name? I think his username is Helltown Beer, something like that. It's a weird name, but anyway, he tracks sports TV ratings. He'll show like a day of ESPN programming, right? And hour by hour, there'll be like Sports Center, and it'll be like women's college gymnastics, cornhole, softball, college baseball, MLS, and there'll be a dip for MLS. Like, people will actually tune out when the MLS game is on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they'll watch like women's college softball, they'll watch gymnastics, and they'll watch college baseball, all these kind of third tier American sports, right? And then there'll be a huge drop off for MLS. And then when the next thing comes on, like the cornhole tournament comes on, they come back and watch again. It is weird. And just, so, I mean, is it growing? I don't know. I'll tell you what is growing, though. Canada does have a new Premier League, which is kind of entertaining. I'll tell you what is growing in this country is the Premier League. It's growing in this country big time. It crushes everybody in terms of viewers. And I'll tell you what else. The Women's League games, the FA, the English Women's League games have done well in this country too. And even our Women's League doesn't do too badly, really. It's
been improving big time. It's how you market it's based on how you market your league. Like, That's
It-
half the
Based on how you
battle.
market your league.
No.
So, but people appreciate. But all this to say that people appreciate. I think American fans like us, right? You know, the three of us. Well, Eric's Canadian, but North American, if you will. I think we understand promotion relegation. I think we understand a 38 game season where the league table determines the champion rather than, a playoff. I think we understand all the way it works, and that's how it works in the rest of the world. And I feel as though MLS 25 years ago had to structure itself the way it did because nobody understood that stuff, right? Because we didn't, 1996 when it started, nobody was really online. Nobody knew anything about European football. 25 years later, the Premier League is the biggest league in the United States. And it's like MLS is insulting our intelligence, right? That's how I feel about it.
They do half the time. Like when you can't even understand the roster rules or the salary cap rules, and
Kind of.
it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, can you finally explain how a transfer fee converts to GAM? Like, what is GAM? GAM is Garber bucks.
Right.
The five
Nobody knows
fans
what that
literally
means.
chanted
Yeah.
at the MLS draft in Chicago.
Yeah.
Garber bucks.
But-
That's literally the argument. I think, and I'll try to get back to West Ham, but
I know. I'm sorry. I did this to us.
no.
There's
It's
going to
not
be a
me.
lot. There's a lot of this anyway. There's going to be a whole lot in the summer.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of this summer. But
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if there is pro rel at the top level, it's going to be a closed system. I think that's the best compromise you will get from the owners. They
Okay.
will say, hey, we will invite what we're at 30. The goal is 30 teams. I
Yeah.
think we're going to get a situation in which
Too
they
many.
will invite a few more USL teams and they'll have a few more franchises come up. And then they'll say probably around 36 to 40 teams. And then they'll shut the door and they will create two divisions and it will be a closed system and it will keep the money within MLS. That's the best you might get.
That's the
And that's
best.
trying to be optimistic.
With it, so it's pro rel, but you're not going to get a situation where somebody comes crashing from. You know what I mean?
You won't get a Leeds United.
You won't.
Pro-
Well, you won't get a Nottingham Forest. In the 70s where they come up one division, they win it. They come up another division, they win it. You're only going to get two divisions. Hey, Zach, how you doing?
So you pissed me the fuck off, and you made me come on.
Well, not for the first
You
time.
have to
Not for the
do-
first time that Zach has felt this way about something I've said. Yes. What did I say? What was it this time?
The fact that it's like Major League Soccer is great. It's going to be great. It's great as it is. No, it's fucking not. Major
When
League
did I
Soccer.
say that? I didn't say it was
You
great.
never said it was great.
I've never said anything good about it. I say nothing but bad things about it.
But hang on, let me rephrase. But promotion relegation, it's going to take way too much. Hang on, let me go to the comments because there's just for
Well,
me,
well,
Well, hold on.
you know how
Pro
I
Rail
feel,
is
Zach.
not American. Pro Rail is not American.
Exactly.
It's not American.
and
It's not
it
American.
needs to fucking change.
But
There's
it could
lawsuit to the
be.
Court of Arbitration of Sport about this.
It could be American because Americans now understand how it works. All right, we didn't know how it
Yes.
worked in 1996, but we do in 2022. And Zach, you know me, I'm not an MLS guy. I'm not. I'm obviously very critical of it most of the time.
I completely agree with you. You understand this a lot like I do, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, hang on. Do you know who the guy who's in charge of MLS is?
Yeah, it's still Garber. It's Don Garber.
So where did Don Garber come from?
From the pits of hell, as far as I know.
Pretty much.
NFL Europa.
Oh, Lord, it was the pits of hell. It really was the pits of hell.
Yeah, exactly. So hang on. So who was the guy who was in charge of bringing him over from NFL Europa to Major League Soccer? Anyone get a guess?
I have no idea.
Suni
Was that our buddy
Hang
Zach
on. What
Blazer?
did Phil say?
Suni Galati.
No. This was before Sunnel.
Oh, this was before Suno?
Yeah.
Ooh.
By the way, hang on. He's still an active teacher at Columbia. So if you have an economics question about anything, feel free to pick up the phone and call him. I have. So then, hang on.
Has he responded?
Is that a Celtics jacket? Are you wearing a Celtics jacket?
Yeah. So first off, they're playing right now, but this is actually a jacket that
That is sweet. I
Yes,
love
sir.
that.
That's,
Okay,
that's a nice jacket.
so Rakuten put out a thing on on Reddit saying, "Hey, did your team make the playoffs? Like, if they did, great. Spend X amount at one of our like participating partners, and if you do that, then you qualify for a jacket of your team's choice that made the playoffs."
Oh,
Because the Celtics made the playoffs and the Wizards didn't, so I got the Celtics jacket. It's fucking awesome, and because it's 71 degrees right now, I could fucking wear this and not die in the fucking DC.
you're wearing a jacket in 71-degree weather. It's 71-degree weather, dude. I'm like barely wearing clothes. I mean, 71-degree weather after a New England winter is very warm.
Hey, you know what? I could wear like if it was 70. It would. So literally, I went to Ireland in 2015, and so like literally it was July, and so the joke was, I remember summer. It was on a Thursday, and Thursday happened to be 81 degrees, and then the rest of the week it was like 71. And that's a joke.
Yeah, I get that. But okay, so I'm not. Listen, for many reasons I'm not an MLS guy. I would support a local club in a league with promotion relegation and preferably no playoffs. I would do that if USL said we'll do pro rel, I'd go to the team up in I think there's one up in Manchester, New Hampshire. I know there's one in Portland, Maine. I'd go up there. I mean, not every week. It's a long drive, but I'd do it.
Well, so
I'd do it.
So the reason why but who's his face? Don Garber was picked. He was picked by Robert Kraft.
Huh, of course.
Yeah, and so
makes sense.
He was picked
The
by
Patriot Way.
The
now in
Patriot Way.
MLS.
Yep.
He was picked by Robert Kraft to not make Major League Soccer or any other soccer group or any other soccer faction in America bigger than the NFL. And unfortunately, we came this close to the end of the Major League Soccer. We came within one fax
Of the individual league soccer, it's kind of
it's
kind of a shame that it survived.
Actually, it was Lamar Hunt. Lamar Hunt, who's the namesake of the U.S. Open Cup.
Of course, Lamar Hunt. Yes, the whole family's from Dallas. Yes.
He's a great owner. He was a great fucking owner of the NASL days and great owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Yada yada yada.
Yep. Founder of the American Football League. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was the one who was like, "Hey, can we try single entity structure in Major League Soccer?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, sure. Well, we weren't thinking that way, but okay, we'll try it." And so that's what saved Major League Soccer.
Yeah. Well, they years ago, MLS was the envy of all the other leagues because the league controlled everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, the NFL, NHL, the rest of them are like, that's awesome. We want that.
Well, I mean, now we don't want that because it's
right.
It's unfucking American.
It's not. Listen, it's not competitive. And I know Phil said there's been a lot of changes, and I believe him because he follows MLS more closely than I do. When Jermaine Jones came to the Revolution years ago, you know how they got him? On a coin flip.
Yeah, exactly. That's stupid. We should not have that.
Flip. It was between, I think, Chicago and New England, and flipped a coin because it's the same. Because Chicago and New England are parts of the same organization. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same league, and it's the league's the one who's write the paychecks at the end of the day.
It's the same. Exactly. It's the same league.
Fucking American.
It's just not. I mean, I think American fans are too smart for that now. Anyway.
Well, I mean, so I had to say, like, you're 100% right. We as Americans are too smart for this now. We understand how soccer works in the rest of the world. We understand how soccer works in 95% of the other countries. Sure, we may not understand how soccer works in like North Korea or the DRC or the Democratic Republic. Hang on. What do all three of those countries have that we don't?
Universal health care?
No. That's a good guess, but no, North Korea has that, not the DRC.
Okay, that's a good point.
But anyways, Eric, Matt, got a guess?
Communism?
No. Matt, got a guess?
Authoritarian leaders?
No. Promotion relegation.
Oh, I got all mixed up as what you were talking about. You're talking about. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about like the.
No. But seriously, they all have promotion relegation. FIFA years ago. So FIFA years ago came into the Dominican Republic, and because the Dominican Republic had many problems with their league.
Yeah.
And so because when you have many problems with the league, you get a visit from FIFA. It's like, we're going to revise and readjust everything. And so they did this to the Welsh. And so this is why Wales has a league.
Yes. Wales has a league. Yes.
Although Liechtenstein does not have a league.
Wales has a league, but then you have Swansea and Cardiff who play in the English league.
Yeah, they have special permission.
They have special permission, yeah. Wales, now you remember, Matt, Wales had that club. Now they've since changed their name, but Wales had a club that changed their name to Total Network Solutions.
Yeah, True North Saints.
They're now called something like that. But for a while, they were called Total Network Solutions. That was the name of the club because Total Network Solutions was some company that sponsored. They changed the name of the whole club. And they actually did quite well in the little Welsh league, and they won it several times. And that led one of the commentators to say they'll be dancing in the streets of Total Network Solutions tonight.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite quotes of all time.
They're still around, actually.
Yeah, they are.
I know they are. Yeah.
They even kept the same TNS, didn't they? Because they're the New Saints now.
The New Saints or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, they were smart. They kept the TNS.
And they were right. And I think they're still very good. But I know that when they were Total Network Solutions, they were like the biggest club in Wales.
Yeah. I think they won like 45 games straight or something like that.
They'd had some gigantic winning streak, probably going back about 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was weird. It made an ESPN alert. I'm just kind of like, when you're a Welsh team and you make an ESPN alert in America, that's a big fucking deal.
That's a big deal because Welsh football is pretty small time.
Well, so the whole reason why they have a league is because FIFA told them either you get a league or you're fucking out of your UEFA.
Of UEFA, yeah.
Yeah, and so Liechtenstein, on the other hand, Gary fucking gets it.
Gary gets. Yes, they were founded in 1959, the New Saints. But I know that for a while, and I'm looking at this here because I don't remember it all. It was back in let's see, Jeff Sterling on Soccer Saturday was the one who said. They'll be dancing in the streets of Total Network Solutions tonight. That was in. Let me see here.
That's a great fucking quote, but
I think that was in around 2004, 2005, something like this. It's a little ways back, but
it's really kind of funny because it's just kind of like you look at Liechtenstein. They don't have a league. Their entire and anyone who plays club wise in Liechtenstein. It's paid in Swiss francs and plays in the Swiss leagues. Right.
Well, Monaco, right? Monaco has a club instead of a league.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm sorry. But Monaco, being a tiny principality, doesn't have a league and also doesn't have a national team. They have a club.
Yeah, it's Monaco,
and generally pretty successful club. So they chose that over saying we're gonna San Marino has a national team. It's pointless, right? But Monaco were like, we're going to have a club instead, and it's being honest, it's gone well for them. It's worked out well for them.
Well, it's not than Gibraltar. Gibraltar has a league, and it's terrible, but it's at the same time because it's kind of funny to watch.
Well, every place. I mean, there is a league. There's a league in Greenland. Did you know Greenland has a league?
Oh, hang on, the league is 1 week long.
The Greenland. How many people live in Greenland? Like. Maybe 100,000, maybe.
Hang on.
Alexa,
it's how many people live in Greenland?
Nobody lives there. They've had it since the 1950s.
56,000 people live in Greenland.
56,000 people. That's a mid-sized suburb of an American city. It's like the town I live in has 35,000 people, right? So a mid-sized Boston suburb, 56,000 people is.
Hang on, Alexa, stop. Sorry.
Yeah, so they have a league.
I love when Alexa works. I hate when it's possessed.
They have a league in Greenland. They have a league in Faroe Islands. Faroe Islands has a league. It's true. Andorra has. They have a national team that don't have a league.
Hang on. Actually, I know someone who played in the Andorran league. He said it was one of the hardest physicality leagues he's ever played in.
I believe that. It's basically between France and Spain. It's going to be a lot like the
No,
French.
no,
League
no,
and
no. So
Canada.
hang on. He came from the New York Cosmos, and he was just kind of like he was used to the American physicality, and then he got placed over there and was just like beating the living shit out of every fucking game. They went after his ACLs every night.
I believe it. I knew a guy who played professionally in Iceland,
Yeah,
where they have by the way, they have promotion relegation in Iceland because he played for a club that was in the second division that lost out on promotion on the last week of the season.
all right.
He played for us for Greater Lowell. A guy named Carl, really good guy actually, good dude, guy from here. He's from Massachusetts. He also played for one of the lower league English clubs, but they were a league club, like a league 1, League 2 club.
Football league club.
Yeah, it was a football league club. So not like National League, but I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, Faroe Islands, 10 teams in the Faroe. So everybody has,
I mean, I said like this is what I love about European football. It's just like they all have leagues.
You know what is really crazy? Faroe Islands, they have promotion relegation.
Yeah, I mean, great.
That's nuts. How did they do that?
I mean, the fucking Rock of Gibraltar has fucking promotion relegation. By the way, the pitch is right next to the fucking airport.
Is it really?
Yeah. So hang on. So when you go into Gibraltar from Spain, first off you get to border crossing. If you're on a tour bus, you put your passport on your head to show you have a photo of you and then your name, and then yada yada yada, and then they come on the bus. And they tour everyone, make sure that everyone has the passports. They don't even.
Everybody else do that, or just you, Zach? Put the
no. This was me and my tour group.
Okay.
What?
Are you sure that's what they do, or is somebody just giving you?
This is what happened to me in 2011.
That doesn't sound very official to me. Put your passport on your head, boys.
Yeah, well, so the Spanish didn't give a shit. So they're just like, go to fucking bread. We don't give a shit. Good luck. Right. So we had to cross the fucking runway. And the runway, so like literally that's the main fucking highway in and out, but it's also the main fucking runway, and the main fucking runway is fucking huge because it's a big fucking tourist destination to the Japanese tourists.
Interesting.
And because it's part of Britain, so it literally you can get a British airline flight from Tokyo to Gibraltar apparently.
So just so you know, the Faroese from the Faroe Islands, okay, the Faroese champion goes to the Champions League preliminary round. Okay, UEFA Champions League preliminary round.
Hey,
the second place Faroese team enters what? The UEFA Conference League. The UEFA Conference League at the first qualifying round. So it is very possible that we will be knocked out by a Faroese club in the Conference League because that sounds like the most West Ham thing that could possibly happen. It's the new Astra Gugu. It's going to be Torshavn. I don't know what it's going to be. Anyway.
Man, I just spit pizza up all over my laptop, but that was fun.
How do we even
That's
watch?
the worst you've done. That doesn't really sound that bad. Do what?
How do we even watch the Conference League? Like, will there be streams or will it be on Fubo?
Hang on, in America?
I'm pretty sure it's on Paramount. It's on Paramount.
In America,
right?
it's on Paramount Plus. And so, on Thursdays for the Europa Golazo show, they normally do it's Europa and then Conference League. They run highlights simultaneously, especially towards the later rounds. They were running games at the same time. So I could see Marseille. I could see Marseille in the Conference League, and then playing against West Ham.
So Faroe. I'm fat. I can't stop looking at this now. Faroe Islands, a population of 53,000 people in the entire country, and they have promotion relegation in their league. we can't do it here in America. We can't manage it. 330 million Americans. We hadn't quite figured it out yet, but they've got it in Faroe Islands. So, and they qualify for Champions League and Conference League. So there you go. I don't know. I mean. We get the percentage. If you think about, they have how
many teams do they have?
They have 10 teams. They have 10 teams. So I mean, think of the percentage of the country that plays football. There's only
It's tiny.
53,000 people in the whole country. They have 10 teams. Well, each team's got to have
At least 23.
25 players, let's say, right? I mean, so 250 players for the top 10 teams, and it's a kind of a big sort of percentage of the entire population, if you think about it. It's all right, James. It's good to see you. You know what? I can't hang around for too much longer myself.
I'm sorry. You brought me into this, and I'm just gonna I heard them. Whoa! Stop!
No. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Zach, when have you ever known us to stick to an agenda? Anyway, listen.
You're right, and me. That's actually kind of scary that I can't put that.
No, it was already going off the rails. We got through our goalkeepers and our defenders. All right, we got through keepers and defenders. Next week, we will do midfielders and attackers, and that'll that's gonna be more because we'll talk about Benrahma next week, and that'll be more.
So hang on. So can I bring up a really weird?
Maybe I'll get James back in to talk about Benrahma because James is a Benrahma.
Can I bring up a really weird name that no one's going to talk about, and I know we have the money to buy?
Yes.
Malik, of Marseille.
Say his name again.
Malik, Milik or something. It's like
Milik.
Yeah, I pronounce it milk because it looks like Harvey fucking Milk.
I think Marseille qualified for the group stage as Champions League.
Yeah, they did, but at the same time, they are significantly low in cash.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but
a lot of the French clubs are because they had their TV deal collapsed.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but like literally, they're supposed to be the fifth team in Europe, like the fifth greatest. In Europe, but like
no, I wouldn't think of it that way.
But I mean,
there's a time when they were. I mean, in the '90s, they were.
Oh my god! In the fucking '90s, they were
amazing. Yeah, they were huge, but they've become kind of a. I mean, they have a lot of fans. They have a lot of fans. Marseille have a huge fan base.
Oh no, don't be wrong. They are the second biggest fan base in all of Europe, and also most of them are West Ham fans. Believe it or not.
Are they?
Yeah,
I have never heard that. I did not know that.
I know we've talked about this in past years.
They're owned by Frank McCourt. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the former Dodgers owner.
Former Dodgers owner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so if you look up Marseille blue and white bubbles, there's literally a tifo of them like I'm forever blowing blue and white bubbles.
Really?
And so there's a banner of the Union Jack, and there's a West Ham logo on the side of Marseille.
Huh.
And so like I know I've seen the guy on Facebook, and I'm just kind of like I don't remember him since, and it pisses me the fuck off because I'm like I want to do an interview with him. I would kill to do an interview with them.
Interesting. Marseille, when they would come to Paris, that was trouble. That was always trouble.
It still is. Hang on, it still is.
That fixture was well because Marseille, a lot of North Africans who live in France support Marseille. And whether they're from there or not, that's not the point. They're Marseille. It's culturally they're attached to Marseille. Yeah. PSG, if I'm honest, have a lot of white racist fans. Well, they do. Not all of them, but a lot of PSG fans are got sort of that skinhead mold. And this was every time Marseille came to Paris, it was. And the funny thing is, PSG Stadium is in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Paris, in a very swanky neighborhood of Paris, beautiful area. So these Marseille supporters would come in and they would burn cars and stuff. They'd burn like Mercedes and Porsches, They weren't burning like little Opals. It's in a very, very wealthy neighborhood of Paris. They'd come in and just raise hell, which I always thought was, to be honest, kind of funny.
Well,
I was at the PSG supporters.
It's working class versus the rich.
Right. It's working class, marginalized people versus I knew a lot of very fine people who supported PSG and were perfectly normal and they were great. But I know they also have a large contingent of racists, basically.
Okay,
They do. It's just true. And I always thought that those guys deserved it.
Right, so let me give you a little bit of background for everyone who has no idea what the hell is going on. In the 1980s, Marseille went to Paris Saint-Germain on an away match, and this was like January, February of '86, and I was cold as shit. And so where the away fan section is, which by the way Marseille cannot go to anymore because that's very fucking dangerous. But the Paris Saint-Germain ultras put up a very neo-Nazi tifo, and so what?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
So what happened was, because they were both wearing black bombers, so the Marseille supporters turned their black bombers inside out, and they wore them inside out like this. Although it wasn't gold, it was orange.
Ooh, look at that though. That's nice.
Yeah,
Is that
and
supposed to reverse like that? Is that meant to be reversible?
no, it is not. I'm just doing it to
For
explain.
effect, but I gotta tell you, that looks pretty good.
So hang on, but you also hang on. You could see, hang on, made exclusive for Rakuten.
There it is. There it is. All right. Good.
But
So they turn their jackets inside out. Is what you're saying? Yeah.
but ever since then, orange has become the unofficial fourth color of Marseille, and it's just been seriously. If you ask anyone who is a Marseille supporter about that moment, about why orange is a thing in Marseille, they will explain in great detail about why.
I mean, you know, I'm a Saint Etienne supporter, as you know, and we are
Yeah, I knew.
fighting for our lives at the moment. We're in a relegation playoff with Auxerre. Tomorrow is actually the first.
Oh
first
yeah,
leg
that is tomorrow. Good luck. by
First
the
leg
way.
is tomorrow. Thank you. First leg is
I hope
tomorrow.
you
and
stay
it's-
up. I don't want you guys to go down.
I'm very nervous about it, to be honest. But I never really had anything against Marseille. Honestly, I would prefer their supporters to most of the PSG supporters because PSG had that element in it that I didn't like. But yeah, Marseille's a beautiful city too, by the way.
But also, hang on. So hang on. Who won the Ballon d'Or in '95? He was on PSG and then he moved to Milan.
Where?
George Weah, yeah.
George Weah.
George
Yeah.
Weah, yeah.
President of Libya,
So
Liberia.
when George Weah
Liberia. Later played for Manchester City at the end of his career.
well, he also played for Marseille for 2 seasons. But
Yes, he did.
but like when he left PSG, there was a big keeper like pretty much calling him a fucking ape.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived in Paris, a lot of that stuff had died down, fortunately. But I mean, in terms of, but the some of the songs were still there, and you know, that element was still in the fan base. So I that's one of the reasons why I never attached myself to PSG. I don't want to be part of that. And of course, as I said, I knew PSG supporters who deplored that sort of thing, and they just lived in Paris and that was their club. But I didn't want to be part of that. So
Sorry, guys, I gotta go. I'm off to the Baja California tomorrow. So I
Oh,
gotta-
lucky
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? We should probably wrap up since
you.
there's
Hang on,
no
Matt. Are you gonna ride a fucking dude buggy through the Baja?
No, I'm going to a wedding, mate. I'm going to a wedding.
Oh,
so-
come on! You need to ride.
Ooh.
You need to go out and ride a fucking dune buggy. That's like literally the place to do it.
I know. I'll see if there's time. I'll see if there's time because it's a pretty
Hang
fancy.
on, it does not just go blindfolded into the desert and try to walk back.
All right, you know what? It's good times I need to wrap up. I've got to my little guy's going on a field trip tomorrow.
Oh, lucky him. Hang on.
Yes.
Lucky him. Like, literally, my school district, we're one of the richest school districts all of the world and all of America. We don't do fucking field trips anymore.
Well, we're not rich, but they're only going to Boston. It's not that far.
That
all
doesn't mean anything. I live outside. I live 10 miles from DC. That means nothing.
All right, so Eric from Toronto, there he is. Where is he? There he is. No, he's on the other side. Where? There he is. I've got to put through it. Eric from Toronto, first time with us. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah,
And I hope
Glad
to
to have you,
come
man.
back. Yes, it always does go off the rails like this every week, but I hope to come back anyway because we enjoyed having you on. Obviously, Phil, our buddy in Chicago, it's great to have you here. Matt
pleasure.
down in South Texas and Mexico, it's good to have you. And of course, Zach dropping in from very near to our nation's capital.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hate to say it, I miss coming on. I miss doing like this on a regular basis. I miss when I had my podcast.
Well, we could do it. We could do it again. I'm not promising we're going to do it every week all summer because
Well, no, but
it gets old talking about transfer stuff. But.
Yes, but but once things start going back to normal, and like we get closer and closer to like kickoff, and like in August.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
To do a podcast with me, I'm more than down. Just realize that I may go a little bit off the rails, and you may need to just lasso. You need to lasso me back in and just.
That's not my strong suit. Is lassoing back in when it's off the rails. Anyway, to everybody in the chat room, to everybody who's watched, thank you again for being on. And I think we will do another show next week. we'll finish off our team, our judging our players, and then after that, we'll see what's going on. Look for Tim on Tuesday morning of next week, 10 o'clock U.S. Let's see, that'll be Eastern time, 10 o'clock Eastern time. He does a show usually with Wally or somebody else. And other than that, just keep your bell thing clicked so that you know when we're on and you can see us. All right, come on, you irons.